Welcome to Sinful's Horror Stories. Tonight's video features stories that take place in the dead of winter. There is something truly peaceful about fresh fallen snow. Be sure to sit back, relax, most importantly, stay warm, and stay sinful. Story number 1. This event took place in the dead of winter. My wife and I live in a very rural area. We are at least 15 miles from the nearest town. Our home is on a 5-acre plot and our property is dense with forest. Our neighbors are few and far between, the closest neighbor being 300 yards away. We live in Minnesota, and the winters here last months and months. The snow and ice are bitter cold, and this area is not for the faint of heart. The time was 5 p.m. and my homemade chili was nearly ready to eat. My wife came into the kitchen, told me that she had just seen a beam of light way off in the distance, in our field. This shouldn't be happening this far off the grid. Anyone that comes out here is either a friend or family member, and we know they will be coming ahead of time. The police usually take at least 30 minutes to get to our house in case of an emergency, so I have my wife phone them just in case. I pulled out my rifle and took my dog with me to check the field. I've been an avid hunter for most of my adult life and can handle a weapon with ease. My dog Max and I braved the elements in search of the light source. The snow was whimsically blowing through the tree branches when I hear a clicking type sound in the distance. My dog's ears perk up and he starts a low guttural growl. He is such a friendly and fun-loving dog and never acts this way. My senses are on high alert. I call out and say, "I am armed. You need to get the fuck out of here." I see a quick flash of light once more, and my heart is pounding in my throat. I hear heavy footsteps about 20 yards away. My dog goes nuts. My dog gives chase and this person is running, trips going down a small snowbank. I'm running as fast as my legs will carry me through the tundra. When I finally reach this unknown person, they're screaming in pain because Max has locked his jaws around this man's arm. I point my rifle at this man and he is smiling a toothy grin. My dog has bit through most of the major ligaments and tendons in his arm, and he's laughing. My mind goes blank in that moment as I train my rifle on him. Why isn't he screaming in pain right now? I tell him that the police are on their way and he stands up, looks at me and winks. This man or creature, whatever he may or may not be, walks slowly down the hill into the darkness. I'm all about protecting my wife and my land, but shooting him in the back just doesn't seem right to me. Story number 2. Winter break of 2018 changed my life forever. I am a 19-year-old female and live alone near my university's campus. During winter break, this area turns into a complete ghost town. I chose to stay in town during this break because I needed the time to myself. I thought I would catch up on some work that I needed to complete before the start of the next semester. My apartment is a 1-bedroom apartment and on the 3rd floor of a 4-story building. I have to traverse the stairs to and from my apartment. I have a neighbor that is extremely sketchy that lives right above my apartment. I've seen him on multiple occasions creep outside my door late at night. I saw this man staring into my peephole in the middle of the night a week ago. The weather has been much colder than usual. We have about 8 inches of snow on the ground currently. I work as a server at a restaurant in town, and I get off work around 1 a.m. each night. I take a bus that drops me off about 0.5 miles from my apartment door. The bus roars up to my stop at 1:10 a.m., and I prepare myself for that burst of cold air to fill my lungs. I step onto the sidewalk and the snow up to the tops of my boots. I get about halfway to my apartment complex and notice a lone person walking on the opposite street. I think nothing of it at first until I reach a major cross street that leads directly to my complex, and this person crosses the street at a brisk pace. My senses go on high alert. Remember that this is well after 1 a.m., and I usually am the only one out this late at night. This person starts to sprint in my direction, and I have no choice but to run and call out for help. This hooded figure is only 20 yards behind me now. My lungs are on fire from the bitter cold chase when I finally reach the parking lot of my building. I have my phone out trying to dial 911, but there's no time. I slip and nearly fall going up the first flight of stairs. I reach the top of the first stairway, and I don't hear any heavy, snowy footsteps anymore. What the fuck is going on? Where did this man go? Is he hiding out? I continue to the third floor, rip my door open and slam it shut, and lock the deadbolt. I'm trying so desperately to catch my breath. I look out of my peephole and see a hooded figure staring back at me. Oh my God, why is this happening? I dial up 911, and they're sending an officer to my apartment now. In this horrifying silent moment, this man turns slowly and walks out of sight. I wait for a moment before I walk into my living room, when I hear the door to the apartment directly above my head slowly creak open and close ever so quietly. Who knows how tonight will unfold? I just heard a knock at my front door, and the police said they're 15 minutes away. Story number 3. This cold is so bitter and unforgiving. This snow falls without end, piles up like a beast about to devour its prey. This story changed the way I look at humanity to its very core. I was visiting my sister at her flat, and we had plans for the evening. We had tickets for a concert, and the trip would require a 1.5-hour drive into another major city. We set off at 7 p.m. and made our way slowly on the iced-over, snow-laden roads. We had been driving for an hour. My sister fell asleep in the passenger seat. I noticed a car stalled or broken down in the middle of the road. The driver's side door was wide open, and the vehicle's emergency flashers were on. The car engine was still running. I proceeded with extreme caution. I know how these types of situations can shake out. Many people have been fooled by this type of ruse. My sister starts to wake up and is confused as to what is taking place. I decide against pulling off to help, and as I crawl past the car, I saw something truly disturbing. I noticed off the shoulder of the lane I was in, there were 3 figures laying in the snow under some brush. These people were wearing long black robes and had hoods over their faces. I slammed the gas pedal to the floor and fled the scene. My sister was surely right this time, and I'm thankful I listened to her insight. That moment was indescribable, so difficult to put into words. Truly chilling. Story number 4. My cousin and his family, wife and infant son, had lived in their house for about 5 years. His wife left home to drop the baby off at a daycare before work, but realized she had left her phone at home. Entering the house, she turned down the corner to the hallway and nearly ran into the drop-down attic ladder, which was fully extended. Since it was the dead of winter, you could feel the cool Arctic air flowing through the house. They never used the attic. My cousin had left for work hours earlier. She quietly left the house, drove around the corner, and called the police. When the police investigated, they found a short-range transmitter connected to several cameras hidden throughout their home. The light fixture in the shower, the ceiling fan above their bed, even a pinhole in the nursery were sending videos to a nearby location. Their neighbor a few houses away had been given a key by the prior owners and installed surveillance equipment once he knew they were scheduled to move in. My cousin's wife walked in on him updating his equipment, but he forgot something at his house and left to get it when she walked in. He had been watching them for years. Story number 5. There was a young woman named Esther who lived in Lecter County, Kentucky in 1934. Her boyfriend was a young man named Ezra Jackson. The couple were very much in love. However, there was an old man who had become obsessed with Esther. He was pestering her all the time and asking her to marry him. She found him repulsive and didn't want anything to do with him, but no matter what she did, she couldn't get him to stop and leave her alone. He was stalking her and she was scared to death. Eventually, she decided that if she had a husband, he might give up and leave her alone. So she married her boyfriend Ezra. After the wedding, as the couple were driving home, the old man suddenly stepped out into the road in front of them. Ezra had to hit the brakes to avoid hitting him. The old man came up to Esther's window and glared in at her. "I'm going to die soon," he growled, "but I'll be back for you, and when I return, you will go with me." Ezra floored the accelerator and drove off at a top speed, but Esther was freaked out and couldn't stop thinking about what the old man had said. A few days later, the old man was found dead in his home. His body was buried in the local cemetery. He had no friends or relatives, and anyone who knew him had been afraid of him, so nobody mourned his passing. A year after his death, on a snowy night in December, Esther was sitting in her living room reading a book when there was a knock at the front door. Her husband and his 2 brothers were in the kitchen. "I'll see who it is," she called to them. The 3 men heard her open the door, but they didn't hear anybody come in. There were no voices, just an eerie silence. After waiting for a few minutes, they went into the living room and found the door standing wide open. Esther was nowhere to be found. When they looked outside, they found the tracks of her bare feet in the snow. The 3 men quickly grabbed their coats and flashlights and set off in search of her. They followed the footprints for 2 miles along the rough, snow-covered county road till they came to the local cemetery. The footprints led through the gate and right up to the old man's grave, where they vanished. While his 2 brothers waited in the cemetery, Ezra went to fetch help. He came back with 7 men from the village. It was midnight and the weather was freezing. Together, under the light of flashlights and lanterns, they began to dig up the grave. When they dragged out the coffin and opened it, they were horrified to discover it was empty. Although a thorough search was made, no trace of the young wife or the old man's body were ever found. To this day, the disappearance of Esther Jackson remains an unsolved mystery. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Please be sure to leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe for future content. I hope you guys enjoyed these true horrifying winter and snow scary stories. Continue to email me your true scary stories too. thesinfulsavant@gmail.com. I will include the link to my email in the description box below. Till we meet again, stay sinful.